Hey everybody, Austin here again with another Let's Play video. Today it's going to be Mega Man X2 for the Super Nintendo, or in this case specifically, Rockman X2 for the Super Famicom. We're using original hardware for this video, as usual, but we're using the Japanese cartridge of the game. Now I do have flash cards and things like that, but the Mega Man X2 and 3 games use a special chip called the CX4, which actually don't work on my flash card. Now, they will work if you have an SD to SNES, but an old Super EverDrive V2 like I have will not work. So we're actually using the original cartridges for this one. And for those that aren't really familiar with the collector landscape, the North American version of this game is crazy expensive, along with X3, hence why we're playing the Japanese version today. I do actually have this on the Mega Man X collection for PlayStation 2, and that collection was also released on the GameCube, so you could still play this game via those means as well. But I wanted to do original hardware from the original card when I did this video, and so here we are now. The Japanese version of the game, aside from all the Japanese text and stuff like that, is basically the same as the North American version. The characters, their names have been changed, but aside from that, it's the exact same gameplay, exact same item placements, exact same music and things like that. So if you just want to see what the gameplay is like, and you want to see where all the items are and things like that, and just get a feel for the music and sounds and so forth, this video should do the trick. Otherwise, you want to track down a different video with English text. So, I beat this game once in the past. It was via the Mega Man X collection for PlayStation 2. That was about 10 years ago as of doing this video. And the game never really resonated with me. It never left a mark. I forgot most of what I learned from that experience back when I finished it for the first time. It's something about it just didn't sit right with me. I don't know why. Maybe I was just kind of an X1 fanboy. And an X4 fanboy, actually. But with revisiting a bunch of the Mega Man X series, some for the first time, like in the case of X3 and X6, and warming up to them, I decided to go ahead and track down another copy of X2, really put some time into it, and honestly, I think it's a great Mega Man X game. I see why people view this one fairly highly. I ended up running through the game about 4 or 5 times after relearning it after, you know, a decade-long hiatus. And it's a great game. There are some issues I have with it, but we're probably not going to really touch on them too much here, as to avoid being a buzzkill. But it's fun. It's great. The graphics look great. The gameplay's fast. And the bosses are really well animated and things like that, and challenging and so forth. And the game's not even that long either. It doesn't have a lot of padding. It's basically the 8 Mavericks, you've got all your heart tanks and sub-tanks and things like that, and armor pieces, and then you have to fight 3 alternate bosses. Well, actually, you don't really have to, and I'll sort of explain that as we get into it. And then you go to Sigma's area, there's a couple levels there, and then that's it. It's pretty straightforward, actually. So, you know, if you enjoyed the first Mega Man X, but you never really gave Part 2 a fair shake, I recommend giving it a fair shake and trying it out, probably via emulation or a collection of some kind, because, you know, again, the real carts are really expensive, unless you're okay with the Japanese version like I'm doing here. But it's definitely worth playing. It's a worthy Mega Man X game, and probably one of the better ones in the Mega Man X sub-Mega Man franchise. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into the game. Actually, before I really get into things, as usual, I want to give a big shout out to my current Patreon backers. We actually got a new backer this past week, Chris Hendricks, who's actually hung out on several of my live streams. So thank you, Chris, for being a patron. It's much appreciated. We're also going to flash by the recent live stream super chatters from the last 30 days. Thank you guys for your direct patronage on my live streams. So let's go ahead and jump into the game. As you saw there, you can actually reconfigure your controls and things like that. We're going to be playing with the default control setup, where Y is attack, B is jump, and A is dash. And so I'm going to be playing a little bit claw-handed and pressing all 3 buttons at once throughout much of the playthrough. I apologize if I sound a little congested and things like that in this playthrough. It's late April as of doing this video, and it's allergy season for me. It's usually April and May when it really hits the hardest. So, you know, if you hear me sniffle a little bit throughout the playthrough, which I'm hoping I don't do, or if I sound just like clogged in general, or have trouble speaking a little bit. It's because of that, so I apologize for that if that happens. It's just, unfortunately, I can't do a whole lot about it aside from take some meds, which I've already done. So we'll just kind of wing it and see how it goes. So this is basically your introduction stage. Nothing too special here. Just make it to the end. You fight a boss. You fight one of these guys in the background, as you actually saw on the introduction sequence. If my health is full right now, I don't really pick up the health pickups because they don't do anything. Now you do get sub-tanks eventually that'll basically act as, you know, backup energy tanks, which can refill your health when you get low. And when you have those, it's good to pick up your health canisters, as they will refill your backup sub-tanks. This guy is super easy. Just smack him in the head. You can do any shot. You can charge up. You can just do your regular buster shot. You still do a lot of damage no matter what you do. And it's actually kind of surprising they made this guy so easy. Like, normally the intro bosses in X games are pretty easy, but that guy is really, really easy. So these silhouettes in the background, that's Sergi's, Violin, and Agile, and they are 3 alternate bosses we want to try to take down in order to skip a Zero fight, a fight with Zero later on in the game, right before Sigma. If we can skip the Zero fight, Sigma will be, I think, a little bit easier to deal with. Sigma only has 2 forms in this game, whereas the Zero fight is adds basically a 3rd phase or form, if you will. And the Zero fight could be really, really tough as well. So we're gonna go ahead and go with this boss right here. And the reason we want to do this first is that we get this wire ability that is pretty handy to get various upgrades and things like that. So I like to start off with this guy and get his upgrade first. And he doesn't actually have anything on his stage that requires other items to get. So you can get like the heart tank, and you can get the sub tank and things like that here. But first, there's a heart tank up here, and the heart tanks extend your health. If you've never played a Mega Man X game, the heart tanks do just that. They extend your life bar. So it's, you know, if you want to have an easier time with this game, it's really imperative to try to find all the heart tanks in particular, and then find all your sub tanks. There's 4 sub tanks in the game. One of them is on this level. And we're going to actually come up here, just like this. With this rain in effect, it actually sort of blows you to the left a little bit. So you'll find that it's easier to jump to the left than it is to the right now, because you've got a little bit of resistance going against you when you jump to the right when the rain's in effect. So that's the energy tank, or the sub-tank as they're known in the X series. And so we got our first sub-tank. If there was a secondary boss to fight here, you could come here and fight him, but the secondary bosses actually won't appear until you've destroyed 2 bosses, and so I'll point that out once they start appearing. So we got our first sub-tank, and we also refilled it a little bit, so you can see how the sub-tank's got a little bit of color to it, and then a whole bunch of black. So that little bit of color is basically indicating that you're filling it up, slowly but surely. And that's pretty much everything to get on this level. There's not really anything else. It's just fight the boss, get his weapon, use his weapon to do other things on other stages. And I'm going to try to do the best I can to not get hit right now, because, yeah, we want to apply that health to our sub-tanks and not to our normal health bar. Oops, I took a hit, so never mind. These things aren't necessary to destroy, but I just kind of have the habit of destroying them when I get here anyway. Be careful with spikes in this game as well. Very typical of pretty much every other Mega Man game known to man. Spikes will kill you in one hit in this game. Now, you'll notice, if you're new to this series, you'll notice that when you get hit, you blink for a little bit. And what's happening there is invincibility frames are activated. And so when you get hit, take advantage of that. Take advantage of not being able to have any other damage done to you. And that includes landing on spikes. So if your invincibility frames are active, when you land on spikes, they won't kill you. They won't hurt you. So you can use that little bit of a buffer period to walk on the spikes and get back to safety. Now this guy likes to throw these objects on the walls here. You don't want to touch them because they do damage to you. And what I prefer to do when I fight bosses, if possible, is just use my fully charged Mega Buster. And we're gonna get an arm cannon upgrade, which is gonna increase our Mega Buster power even further. It'll let us charge it up one step further. And it's actually very, very powerful. It might even be the best Mega Buster that you can get in a Mega Man X game, or at least I should say, the best Buster upgrade you can get within the first 3 Mega Man X games on Super Nintendo. And I'll obviously demonstrate that once I get it. So one other strategy here is just to shoot this guy. Now, bosses do have invincibility frames, so when they're, hold on a second. Oh, this could be bad. Let's actually go ahead and use our sub-tank. I'm not really too worried about using the sub-tank, I just don't want to die and have to do the boss over again. He does this lightning attack as well when he gets ticked off. But yeah, when the bosses are blinking, they have invincibility frames as well, so that's one thing to watch out for in this game, is when they're blinking and flashing and whatnot, you can't do any more damage. So I like to not waste shots when they're blinking and so forth, because they're not going to do any damage. So I usually try to like taper my shots. If I'm just using the standard Buster shot, not charged up, I just try to shoot the boss, have them activate their invincibility frames, and then try to time the next shot to where it hits like right as the frames wear off. So here's the strike chain ability. So this does damage to enemies, but it also latches on the walls and sort of just like brings you to the wall. And so the next boss we're going to do here is Flame Stagger, also known as Flame Stag in North America. So all the Japanese names are actually kind of funny. There's some really humorous names, and it's probably for the best that they change these names when bringing the game over to Western territories. But this is another level where we don't really need any upgrades to get further upgrades. So what we're going to do is just play through this level as well. Although Flame Stag himself could be a little tricky, but I think we'll be just fine. But here's our energy tank. The heart tank's going to appear shortly. And so for these guys, you want them to slam into those thin walls. They'll just destroy themselves like that. And there's an extra life over there. We don't want to get that. It's just not worth it. So I'm going to just try to come up here as quickly as possible. Skip those items. What I want to do is get this heart tank. Preferably without dying. So just kind of like that. We're going to come over here and get this health. And we can just sit here like this. And there we go. So some of these levels really aren't all that long as well. You can really tear through them pretty quickly. And if you needed to fight one of the alternate bosses again, you can get to them here, but unfortunately it's not activated yet. Let's come down here, get this health. Filling up that sub-tank. Where's our sub-tank at? Almost full, actually. There's also an extra life up top. Unfortunately, I can't really access that right now, so I'm not going to worry about it. I'm gonna come up this vertical shaft. These things that are smoking will actually start to shoot fire at you, so you kind of want to watch out for those if possible. And that is that. Boss time. So one of the things about Mega Man X2, compared to Mega Man X1 in particular, is the boss patterns can be really intricate in this game. And while the bosses can be busy in Mega Man X1 as well, it seems like the patterns in this game are slightly more randomized and a little more dangerous, if you will. So you can see as the Flame Stagger can actually go up the walls like that, he'll basically do sort of like a shoryuken. Speaking of shoryukens, you can actually get a shoryuken in this game. So the shoryuken is basically like, if you played Street Fighter 2, or, you know, almost any Street Fighter actually, both Ken and Ryu have what's called the shoryuken, which is an uppercut. Ken's in particular is a flaming shoryuken. And let's go ahead and just use a sub-tank again. I'm just going to try to just use the sub-tanks if I can. Usually I try to just tough it out and try to beat the bosses without using sub-tanks. But we're gonna go ahead and just use the sub-tanks anyway, just so I don't have to redo the fights. One strategy on this boss is to try to just go up like this, but I found that he could be a little erratic with, you know, when he jumps up the walls like that, back and forth. So I usually just stay relatively, you know, far down on the screen and just deal with him that way. But yes, this playthrough will get the shoryuken. It's basically a hidden uppercut that you can get on one of Sigma's levels. And the uppercut, much like the Hadoken, the secret Hadoken in Mega Man X1, will kill bosses usually in one hit, depending on how well you hit them. So the attack we just got is a fire attack. It's actually very useful in this game. Once we upgrade our Buster, it's going to also allow us to do another air dash, which is really interesting. Alright, so this is where the three sub-bosses start to appear. And I like to sort of just plan out my playthrough with those bosses in mind. So let's see where the bosses appear. Okay, so Violin appeared here, and honestly I don't really want to go there yet. I want to come here to the Wheel Alligates stage, because this is where we're going to get our Buster upgrades. Let's just go ahead and do this boss first. Now, some of you guys might have to correct me in the comments section, those of you guys that are really familiar with this game, but it feels like you might have to defeat the sub-bosses in a specific order, because on a practice session on Twitch a few nights ago, I played, I think, Sergi's first, Agile second, and then Violin just disappeared completely. And when one of the sub-bosses disappears completely, you can't fight them and kill them. And thus you don't get Zero's third piece, you get 0 pieces from destroying them. And which meant I had to still fight Zero right before Sigma. So if any of you guys can clarify that, just let me know in the comment section. So this is a bit tricky to do, but basically the Buster upgrade is up here. So basically our arm cannon upgrade. And there's a few different ways you could potentially do that. Wow, that actually didn't take me that long. It took me a long time to do it the other night. It just seems to be hit and miss when I try to go for it. But that's how you can get the Buster upgrade, and we want the Buster upgrade to get future power-ups. It's mandatory. One of the ones is on this level even, so... And one of the ones that's on this level is the reason I went to Flame Stagger first, to get the Flame Stag ability. So now we can also charge up our Maverick sub-weapons as well. So that's the air dash I was talking about. So very handy stuff. And we're going to destroy this with this mech. We're going to come down here. This is actually one of the only times in the entire game you get this mech suit. There's another time as well, which we're going to make pretty good use of it, actually. Let's go ahead and get out of it. Unfortunately, you can't go up ladders with it. So we're going to dash over here like this, and jump just like that. That's actually a really tight window right there, so it's always nice being able to get that on the first try. So that's a heart tank. And we're just going to destroy these bird things as they come down. You can just use kind of like a half-charge shot. You'll notice that you can charge up all the way for that, or even further now that we get the Buster upgrade, like that. Or you can just do a quick charge like that, which will sort of cut through small enemies that don't have much HP. And there's going to be an extra life up here. This is actually where you can get to one of the alternate boss fights. Sergi's, Agile, or Violin. And it's Violin, like L-E-N, not like violin, like the instrument. It's kind of odd, but it is what it is. Now, the alternate bosses in this game are completely optional, but if you want to get the quote-unquote best ending and get all of Zero's pieces and whatnot, you do have to fight them. And I do want to fight them, you know, just so you guys can see what they're like. And if I went to the alternate boss room, I would actually come out of there. Now, I do want to come over here because there's some hidden health right here. There we go. Refilling our sub-tanks, which is nice. Let's see if this guy drops health. A lot of times these guys drop items, but it doesn't look like he did. Alright, on to the boss fight. Gotta go ahead and just get charged up. For the Mavericks, on my first time through, I'm gonna try to just use the my standard Buster shot if I can. So we're gonna do what's called Buster only for these bosses. But traditional to other Mega Man games, including Mega Man X games, you have to fight all these bosses a second time at Sigma's levels. There's basically a boss rush that you have to do. And you can try to wiggle out when he gets you. This guy can take a little while, so he can be a little annoying. There's a couple bosses in this game like this where they just take a while to take down. Now, one of the nice things about the upgraded Buster Shot in this game is that even when the boss is blinking, the second Buster will actually do damage. So you want to just unleash both back to back. Unlike Mega Man X2, where you can upgrade your Buster, but the second shot won't be impervious to, or I should say it won't be able to get around the invincibility frames. See, just like that. So the upgraded Buster in this game is just, it's very, very powerful if you can get both shots connecting. You'll do like 4 or 5 blocks of health. Some nice graphical effects in this game as well, like the like that liquid right there that waves up and down. I don't know if that's the CX4 chip doing that. The CX4 chip that was in the cartridge was basically for the wireform effects. So you'll notice that there's on the title screen, the X on the title screen was rotating around, providing a wireform sort of effect, and that's the CX4 in action. Alright, so we actually wanted to come to the Wheel Alligates stage so we can also get one of the upgrades here. So it looks like Violin is here, so we want to go ahead and take him out first if we can. So let's go ahead and do that. Oh, and you know, I just realized we just did something wrong. I'm gonna actually have to end up coming back here, unfortunately. But that's okay. The thing we have to come back for is right in the very beginning of the stage. And so we basically need to try to get up top there, but I can't get up top without a very specific ability, which unfortunately I don't have. It's basically an ability that'll let you freeze guys in place and then use them as stepping stools. But at least we can get this, which we need it with the Wheel Alligator weapon. And there we go. So this is the armor upgrade. And this is gonna give us, I don't know what it's called, but in later Mega Man X games, it was called the Giga Attack. It might actually be called the same thing in this game, but since I'm playing the Japanese version of the game, I have no idea actually what it is. And there should be an extra life over here. There's a lot of just kind of freebie extra lives in this game. And there's going to be a series of mini-bosses. So this guy that's going to pop up, you want to shoot him in the open area on his chest. And then what I like to do is switch over to the flame weapon. You can use the shoulder keys to switch whatever weapon that you want. Switch to what weapon you want. But a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just I'll pause the game and do it if I'm in like the heat of the moment like that. You know, at a mini boss or a regular boss or something like that. It's just much safer. Okay, so we're gonna need to actually come over here. This is where Violin is. But what I actually want to do first is come down here because there's gonna be some sort of freebie health. So there we go. We actually got both sub-tanks up all the way. I did not want to do that. Alright, so this guy can be really tough, actually. He's definitely one of the tougher bosses in the game. And his main attack is this ball and chain. He's also got this sort of spread shot, which is actually pretty easy to avoid. So if he gives that to you more often, just be glad, because this ball and chain can be really tough to deal with, especially the second time you have to fight him. Let's go ahead and use the sub-tank. I don't want to die. So these guys, you actually have to fight them in one form or another regardless. So if you don't fight them before you go to Sigma's levels, then you're going to have to fight them anyway. Although the patterns and stuff that they do the second time around is actually different than it is when you fight them optionally here. I'm going to go ahead and just take the top route here. Nothing special on the bottom. And we want to try to just wiggle those guys off our head. They'll limit our movement and so forth. It can be kind of annoying. Kind of like face huggers in the Alien franchise. Alright, so mini-boss number 2. Basically the same thing as before. The flame seems to kill those bugs really quickly, which is nice after dealing with that mini-boss. So if I wanted to, I could use the flame attack on this guy. It does a lot of damage. But like I said, we're going to do Buster only for the first time around. Now this guy basically has two forms. He's going to turn into a butterfly or a moth. Oh, that's interesting. He got some health back. That's odd. Never seen that before. So one thing I really like about the bosses in Mega Man X2 is that you know, you've got vertical screen space on some of them, which is really cool. You don't really have that on the original Mega Man X. Now, one of the downsides to the bosses in this game, though, is that you don't have that many, like, really large bosses. Like, you don't have someone the size of Spark Mandrill or Flame Mammoth or bosses like that. And even just, you know, every other boss you fight in this game, they're not usually that tall either. So you don't have anyone like Boomer Kawanger that just kind of, like, towers over you in a very lanky kind of way. So that is one of the downsides to the bosses in this game, if you ask me, but their attack patterns are quite varied in this game. Alright, so what we want to do is try to take out these guys. I'm going to go for... I guess I want to go for Sergi's first? Sure. Let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go ahead and go to Sonic Ostrige. Ostrige? It's basically Overdrive Ostrich in the North American version. And we're going to come here to fight our alternate boss, or optional boss. Oops. So this guy drops mines, and he has a tendency of kind of jumping around like an idiot. You'll notice that there's quite a bit of slowdown in this game on the bosses in particular. From what I understand, the slowdown might have been removed from the PS2 Mega Man X collection. Possibly the GameCube one as well, but I haven't played that one, unfortunately. The GameCube one has actually really gone up in price, and while I'd like to try it on GameCube, I can't justify the cost. The PlayStation 2 version is like $15 brand new sealed as of doing this video, so it's not exactly expensive, whereas the GameCube version, unfortunately, is expensive. So if I really wanted to, I could try to grind out for some health here, but I'm not going to. Actually, you know what? What I am gonna do is this. There's actually something I can show you. So what's interesting is when you've got the upgraded arm cannon and you've got this rock shot, you can charge it up here, and health just magically appears, just like that. There are a couple secret areas throughout the course of the game where you can do this. But notice how I can use it out here, but when I come here, it just makes a faint sound. It doesn't actually shoot. And then you can basically charge it up, and there we go. That actually worked out really well because I thought it was going to die. Now the heart tank coming up, we're going to actually have to kill ourselves to get it. There is a way to use this bike to get it, but I just haven't been able to pull it off. It's really tough. You can press the A button to dash with the bike. So let's go ahead and try to get it again. Yeah, see, I just completely messed that up. But it doesn't really matter. We're probably going to end up dying to get this ability anyway. Not ability, but this this heart tank, this item. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is kill myself. I'm gonna charge this up. And we are going to just do an air dash like that, and there it is. We got it. And we're dead. But the checkpoint was right there too, so we just crossed the threshold for the checkpoint. So we don't really get set back at all for that. And this is where another armor upgrade is. These are going to be the boots, which allows us to air dash, which is very, very handy. And cool little feature, by the way, something to keep in mind is you can only air dash once in the air, kind of like this. But if you charge up your flame attack, it'll actually reset the amount of air dashes you've done, and you can do a second air dash mid-air. So kind of like that. See? Just like that. To get some extra distance. It's really cool. And we're gonna go ahead and shoot this to trigger the boss fight. And that is not me shooting. I watched a speedrunner play this game once, and I thought he was literally mashing the button that fast. No. It's the game doing that for you. You don't actually push anything after you've made the initial shot. So this guy has a tendency of bouncing around. When he does that, you can actually air dash under him. Otherwise, if he just runs across the ground, just jump over him. Now he is going to do an air attack as well, which is going to shoot projectiles down from the top of the screen. Those are actually kind of tough to avoid, but you'll see what I mean in just a moment. And this is it, right there. And that's it. And Agile has reappeared, which is nice because we actually need to come here anyway. So we're going to go ahead and come here. So the first item we're going to get here is a heart tank, which can actually be pretty tricky to get. But the wire ability that we got from the very first boss, we're going to go ahead and use it here. And let's go ahead and switch over to it. And we're gonna go ahead and come down here and then jump out. Oops! I pressed one of the shoulder keys and switched my weapon by accident. Now, unfortunately, you can't air dash if you're doing a dash jump. So notice how, like, I'm dash jumping right now, but I can't actually dash in the air. Now again, that can be cancelled out with the flame dash, but you can't charge up the flame dash when you're inside this mech. Those not hit the shoulder key by accident again. Oops! That was my fault. I actually held up, and holding up and jump makes you jump out of the mech. So all those extra lives we earned, we're just siphoning through them really quickly right now. Let's try this yet again. There we go. That's actually pretty tough. I've missed that quite a bit. Alright, and back up, the mech's gonna reappear, which we're gonna need to get to the, Agile. And I'm gonna just go ahead and destroy that. You gotta watch out for these things, they'll come down and crush you. But it was necessary to do it in just that order. We're gonna actually come here first as well, because the mech's probably gonna disappear after I do this alternate or optional boss fight. I'm gonna go ahead and get this one up. Just like that. And we can go ahead and actually use the mech to sort of jump up a little bit higher. You can't actually grab onto these walls on the sides here. I guess they're too slippery. We're gonna get our last armor upgrade here as well, which is the helmet. And the helmet will actually allow you to find secrets. You can basically scan the environment around you. Which on the first time playthrough, this is probably the best place to come first, so you can get the helmet and try to figure out where all the goodies are throughout the game. Now, this guy dashes forward really, really fast. He's kind of a pain to deal with. And when he's in his dashing motion, his dashing animation, you can't actually do any damage to him. He just reflects everything that gets shot at him. So I like to just sort of wait until he does his jumping attack. Because if you're on the ground when he's doing his dashing attack, you're probably gonna get hit. It goes across the screen so fast. Huh, okay, well that worked. It was almost like I had him in a little bit of a loop there, which was nice. Alright, so if you fall down this way, you want to hold down to the left here. If you touch those spikes, you will die. And another mini-boss. What I'm going to do is actually go ahead and just use one of my sub-weapons here. Makes life a whole lot easier, because the second one of those little pods come out with double the firepower. Or I should say, with having to fight two, there's double the firepower. And the helmet upgrade is actually down here, right out in the open. So it's very easy to find as long as you're willing to slide down the chasm. And there's actually a secret up here. This is just to demonstrate what the helmet does. So when you come out of the pod, it'll actually trigger the secret finding ability. See, just like that. Now we go, it actually leaves it on that, so you want to go ahead and switch off of it so you can actually shoot again. You can't shoot when you've got that ability active. And we're almost at the boss fight. Now this is another one of those rooms where you can, if I can get these bats to go away, you can basically use this to get your health back. Oh, item energy this time around. So that's pretty useful as well. Alright, back to our buster. Charge up. There we go. Now what I like to do is shoot this guy and then dash under his attacks. His attacks are kind of dangerous because they freeze you in place. But this is one of those boss fights, kind of like the Gator, that takes a while with the Buster. He was too close for that, unfortunately. That was bad. Now I try not to charge up in this guy because he has a tendency of just like dipping into his shell. And when he does that, he can't be damaged. So I don't want to waste a fully charged shot on him. Oops. And you can just try to shake out before he attacks you again. He'll basically freeze you and then try to dive bomb you with his shell attack. And he likes to slow things down as well. And there we go. Yeah, probably my least favorite boss in the game, at least to do Buster only. He's actually kind of fun if you use his weakness against him, because when you do that, he comes out of his shell and you can actually dash into his shell and kick it away from him. He'll try to jump back into it, and it's just kind of fun, just kind of playing kick the can with his shell. But when you're doing Buster only, he's pretty annoying. Pretty annoying is actually kind of an understatement, actually. So there we go. We also defeated all three of the alternate bosses, which is going to allow us to not fight Zero right before Sigma, which will make Sigma easier. We're going to actually come back here as well to get our heart tank that I was talking about. And by using this weapon... Oh, sorry, wrong level. But you can see we've actually got 3 Zero parts down there now. That's from defeating Sergi's, Agile, and Violin. If any of the bosses disappears and doesn't reappear, and so basically if you don't defeat all 3 of those guys, the Zero parts will just, whatever Zero parts you've gotten will just disappear completely. So yeah, I went to actually the wrong level, my bad. It was this one I wanted to go to. And so for this guy, we want him to, you know, remove his shield like that. We'll get an extra life and our heart tank. Alright, so let's go ahead and exit. Alright, and so what we're going to do is we're going to actually come to this guy first, because we have to play his stage twice, unfortunately. Kind of like in Mega Man X5, actually, the underwater level has to be played multiple times to get all the upgrades, like the heart tank, sub-tanks, and capsule. In this one, to get the sub-tank here, you have to actually beat the boss, then come back and use the boss's weapon in order to get up, to get the sub-tank. So this guy is just sort of a mini-boss. He just kind of like goes along, he tries to attack you and whatnot. It doesn't really matter if you destroy him or not. You can leave him alive if you want. If you plan on going to the alternate boss fight, though, say if this was one of the levels where, say, Surges or Agile or Violin appeared, he actually kind of blocks your way to them. So it is helpful to destroy him in those cases, but it's not really necessary. We're going to actually come up here as well, because... there we go. Heart tank. No special items needed for this one, so you always want to go ahead and grab that if you can. Let's go ahead and pick this up when we're at it. But there's also a secret here. So we've already got, you know, full sub-tanks and whatnot. But this is where you can do it here on this level. So if you're gonna go to the alternate boss, you would actually come up here. Just like that. So notice how he's doing damage to me. If I destroyed him earlier, he wouldn't be able to touch me because he wouldn't even be there. Alright, boss time. So this guy can only be hurt when his bubble has been destroyed. So you notice that he's got a bubble shield around him. So that can be a little annoying. Something I didn't really figure out before, but it looks like you can jump over him when he's in his bubble form, or when he's got his shield up, and he'll actually try to do a vertical attack, and that makes his shield come down. Very good to know, I didn't know that. So that's how you can control that boss fight a lot easier and make it go a lot faster. Alright, so we've got one more level to go to. I think we pretty much got all of our heart tanks and items outside of this next stage we have to visit. So that's good. One thing that's nice about Mega Man X2 is if you do things right, you don't have to revisit things super often. Like, you don't have to replay every stage twice, for instance, in order to get all your items. So these spot lamps on this level, if they activate, they'll basically trigger, you know, these blocks to come down and start shooting at you. They'll also trigger this platform to disappear, so you have to watch out for that. I'm gonna actually go back and see if these guys will respawn. I am gonna need one of those blocks. Actually, you know what? I might not need one of these blocks. Actually, no, I will. We might actually have to... Yeah, I have to have the block. I forgot. We might actually have to kill ourselves. Let's go ahead and do that. So for this this item, we definitely need... definitely need to not get noticed. There we go, just like that. And so what we're gonna do is come here, use this, just like that. And here's our heart tank. So that's pretty much it. We've got all of our heart tanks. We're gonna want this to use this weapon again, actually, to get our sub tank. Now watch out for these things, because if they land on you, you will die in one hit. One of the other, you know, classic Mega Man tropes is getting crushed. So it's this block right here we need. We're gonna kind of walk on it like that, and just like so. There's our sub-tank. So for this mini-boss, which actually uses, you know, the CX4 chip to get that wire form effect, we'll go ahead and just do Buster only. It's definitely easier to use a boss sub-weapon if you can. A lot of the boss sub-weapons are really good for these mini-bosses. And if you come over to the right, you can avoid the spot lamps. Come over to the left, you can avoid them again. Now this part is kind of interesting. Sometimes one of the three alternate bosses appears here. So you need to come over here before this whole area gets stacked up. That doorway will get blocked if you're not fast enough. And that's that. That guy basically just shoots high and low. You can jump over both. And we're just gonna go ahead and skip. Ooh, we got crushed. Or at least I got to demonstrate getting crushed at least once in this playthrough. And that's that. Alright, so we're gonna have to go back to the crab level after this, but after that, that's pretty much everything. And we got a really easy way to fill up the sub-tanks. You guys can probably guess what it is. But this boss is actually pretty interesting because he can poison you. He does this attack that just kind of like sucks you into him. And there we go, that limits our attacks. So I can no longer charge. Now I can shoot less often. I can only shoot one bullet at a time now. But that's that. After that, if he gets you again, your jumping ability will be nerfed, so you won't be able to jump as high. It's kind of an interesting mechanic. You don't really see that often in this series. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and skip through this. If you want to skip through all the text in this game, you just hold down the start button and it just scrolls by as fast as it possibly can. Alright, so we're gonna go back to the crab stage. And so there's two things we're gonna do here. We're gonna get the remaining sub-tank. We're also gonna get an extra life here to sort of recoup a little bit from those losses on the previous stage. So switch over to our wheel. And we're going to switch over to the bubble attack. These bubbles are actually surprisingly powerful in this game. And that's that. So the charge of ability for the bubble attack is this. You basically have bubbles that rotate around you, basically until your energy runs out, but the bubbles also allow you to jump higher underwater. So you can see there's the sub-tank. And very much like Mega Man X3, when you get to the top, you can actually hop as much as you want outside the water as long as you don't drop too far in. And that's that. So we're going to come back to our little secret here, and we're going to fill up all of our sub-tanks. Let's go ahead and switch over to this. Just like that. And I think that's pretty much it. Yep, that's it. And we're pretty much maxed out on everything, so we're just going to go ahead and go to the last stretch of the game. There's going to be 3 main bosses here, then we have to fight all of our regular Mavericks again. And I think I got every heart tank. I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah, I got that one. Yeah, I got everything. I just like to make sure before I go in. Yep, we're good. Alright, let's do this. So this stage can actually be pretty tough compared to some of the final stages in the original Mega Man X. So Mega Man X2, I would say, definitely has a sharper difficulty curve than the first Mega Man X does. It's still not a supremely difficult game, I'd say, but it is still tough, without a doubt. There's going to be a few of these sections as well. Gonna try to skip over that guy. Just because there are enemies doesn't mean you have to kill them. Alright, so this one we have to come up... Oh, wrong section. I'm thinking of a different section. Alright, so this part we have to rush up as quickly as possible. This could be tough, actually, on this one. I've died here many times. And there we go. Got it. And first boss. Alright, so I believe this is going to be violin. And he's much, much more aggressive than he was the first time around. You can basically try to use these blocks as a shield. Now I'm trying to remember if I want to get the Shoryuken, if I have to have my sub-tanks maxed out. I want to say I do, and I need to have full health at the same time. So, which is why I'm not using a sub-tank right now. Alright, you know what, screw it. Let's just go ahead and do it. We'll just refill our sub-tank on the next stage. You can really see how this guy is just a major pain. And now his ball and chain gets faster. And there we go. And what I can do, if I wanted to, is instead of trying to fill it up manually there, I can basically come to one of these areas to get all of my health back easily. So we're going to go ahead and do that. One of the nice things is you can also grind out for your extra lives. The extra lives appear all the time on these levels. Or I should say they reappear all the time. So we can go ahead and pick up that 1-up again. Probably not going to need it, but... you know, the main reason I'm coming here is just to get my sub-tank back up. We're going to go ahead and just tank. And there we go. And it's full. Let's go ahead and exit. What's interesting about the Bubble Crab's tune is that it was reused in Mega Man X5 for its underwater stage as well. Interestingly, I put a lot more time into Mega Man X5 than I did Mega Man X2. And so when I played through this game again, you know, over the last few weeks leading up to this video, I was like, wow, it's from X5. I had no idea. And it makes a little more sense because when I was streaming this on Twitch and on YouTube, actually, or I should say Mega Man X5 on Twitch and YouTube, people were mentioning like familiar Mega Man X2 tunes, and I had no idea what they were talking about. But now I know. Alright, so we're just gonna wait down here. And I'm gonna switch over to the left. Switch back over to the right. Don't touch the spikes. And what I'm going to do is just air dash like that. There's a 1-up over here to the right. It's not worth going for. It's possible to get it, but it's entirely unnecessary. I'm trying to be safe on this guy just because those shots he fires out, you can only destroy those with a charge shot. You can't destroy them with a regular buster shot. So if I get down there and try to button mash and try to shoot him as quickly as possible, it just doesn't work. I always take damage. Alright, so we're going to be fighting Surges again. And for this guy, we're going to go ahead and just use his weakness, otherwise he's a major pain. And the weakness is this. At least for the first form. The weakness for the second form is this. You want to charge it up. You want to come down here and just do this. And that's that. So Agile should be a bit of a joke, actually, if I manage to get the shoryuken and keep my full health bar. The thing about the shoryuken is, despite how overpowered it is, you can only use it when your health is at maximum. So if your health isn't absolutely filled, you can't use it. So there's a little bit of risk versus reward going on with the shoryuken, just like with the Hadoken in the original Mega Man X. And we're just gonna go ahead and skip that. There's one of the moving platforms, but I don't really need it. Come on, you can do it. It's not that hard. And there's gonna be a bat here. We're gonna actually use him as a platform. Just freeze him, just like that, and that's that. Gonna go ahead and hopefully despawn those guys. There we go. There they are again. We're gonna use him as a platform again, just like so. And this is where we get the shoryuken. And we're gonna go ahead and charge up this attack just to kill the... There's two enemies here that I usually take damage from. Oops! I didn't mean to grab onto that wall. That was dumb. That was my fault. I mistimed that jump. So we're gonna have to do it again. And we're going to try that again. And I messed up again. Why do I keep doing that? But the good thing about this is that you can pretty much just try it infinitely, because there's always that extra life there when you die and come back. One other way to handle that is actually to freeze that bat, just use them as a platform. But the big issue is I need all of my health, otherwise the shoryuken doesn't appear. So, just like that, and we're gonna do that. Tricky section, probably the trickiest section in the game. And just like that. And we can just keep sliding down here. And there it is. So this will not appear if you don't have full health. So you have to get through that whole section without taking damage. And here's the shoryuken. And if we want to use the shoryuken, we want to basically get through this next section without taking damage either. So we're going to go ahead and just freeze all these guys. It also helps with getting across the spikes. And there we go. I'm gonna go ahead and try to kill Agile here in one hit, basically just by uppercutting him. Let's see if it works. If I miss, it won't work. And there we go. He's actually not too bad of a boss on his own without the shoryuken, but trust me, if you can get the shoryuken, and you want to save a little bit of time, then you can just go ahead and use it on him, kill him in one hit. So the next level is going to feature us trying to get through all 8 Mavericks again. And I'm going to try to shoryuken them as much as possible, but we're going to take some damage, and you know, we're not going to have the shoryuken for most of the time. So we'll just kind of see what happens here. Oh, it's the gator. Bad one to pick first, actually. We have to avoid his spikes again, or his razors. His blades. Oh, come on. There we go. Yeah, so as long as you wiggle out fast enough, you actually won't do any damage when he grabs you. But you have to be mashing those buttons and the D-pad really, really quickly. There we go. Nice. Usually I've taken damage by this point, and if I don't use an energy tank, I get to these bosses without having full health. You'll notice that there is some freebie health up top, but it's just the tiny pellets that only give you 2 hit points back, so they're not all that great, unfortunately, for refilling your health efficiently. And I'm gonna take a hit. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate the being able to kick him across the screen. I think it has to be a fully charged attack. Unless I'm using the wrong attack. I might be using the wrong attack. I think I'm actually using the wrong attack. Come on. Yeah, totally using the wrong attack. That's right, it's this one. Duh. So what we can do is actually bump into it. It's pretty funny, actually. Just like that. So, you know, if you get to this guy on, like, a first playthrough, and you don't want to spend that much time, make sure you have this sub-weapon first, before you get to him. It just makes life so much easier. And it's more fun to fight him that way, too. Alright, so this first part should be pretty easy. Just like so. Nice. I'm doing pretty well with the shoryuken. Normally it's pretty tough to hit these guys with it. Nice again. I'll take that. It helps to wait a few moments when you start a boss fight. If you try to just dash right in front of these guys and do the shoryuken, a lot of times what's going to happen is they're going to do an attack, you're going to get hit, and it's not going to work out according to plan. Oh, I messed up. Okay, so we can at least use his weakness now, which is going to be the saw. The unfortunate part about the saw is it just kind of stays out for a long time. So if you miss, you know, you have to either just sit and wait and you can't shoot again, or you have to go to your weapons menu, switch to a different weapon, which makes the old saw disappear, and then switch back to the saw. Oh, I didn't think he was going to do that. Alright. Alright, another one bites the dust. I'm actually getting quite drowsy right now. I haven't, I had to flip my sleep schedule this week to, for an event on Saturday that I'll be going to. And it's really tough doing that when you work the overnight shift like I do and you have to flip your sleep schedule on the fly. I've just been completely, like, drowsy in the last 2 days, even though I've gotten a lot of sleep. It's just my body's not used to it. And it's really starting to hit me pretty hard right now, actually. Alright. And one of the other things about this is that, you know, I just completely forgot what the weaknesses are. You know, I always try to experiment when I get here, but You know, a lot of times when I play these games, it's just Buster only. But that's also one of the things about, you know, not having played this game as much as I've played, say, Mega Man X1 or X4 or something like that, is when I'm trying to, like, cram my knowledge of these games into my head, you know, within, like, a week's time, which is basically what it's been since, you know, the first time I played this game in 10 years was about a week ago, you know, as of recording this. And I've beaten the game about 4 or 5 times. And so there are still a lot of details that are a little foggy to me, including, you know, what the weaknesses are when I fight these guys. I'm trying to see if that will hit him. I can't seem to get it. Yeah, I can't seem to get it at all. So let's just do this. And that's that. You know, what's great about this, though, is that you don't get thrown straight into, like, the next Sigma stage. You basically go back to the character select screen again, and we can go ahead and get our sub-tank back up. It's like, why not, right? I'm not gonna need it, but, you know, the option's there in case, you know, you want to go through with it. I'm just not gonna worry about that extra life. And that's that. Alright. We still have 8 lives. We've died so many times in this playthrough, but that's how easy it is to get extra lives in this game. God, I think I've died like 5 or 6 times. Yeah, we still have 8 lives. So, here we go! We get to play through this part of this level again. But with a twist. Doesn't actually really matter if we trigger these things. And that was a mistake. Which is entirely expected of me when I get tired like this. And of course, nothing up here. So normally what we'd have to do is if we didn't fight Agile, Violin, and Sergi's, Zero would be his normal color here, and we would have to fight him. But since we've reassembled Zero, real Zero appears and destroys the fake one. And the attacks that you just saw him do, he would actually do to us if we had to fight him, which is what makes that fight pretty tricky. Now, unfortunately, I'm probably not going to be able to use the shoryuken here. I'll try it, and then when I take my first hit, I'll just fight normally. But Sigma only has 2 forms. I'd say, of all the Sigmas I've fought, this is probably the easiest one. I mean, his first form is, you know, it's fast. Oops, we took a hit. Not a big deal. I'm not really that desperate to kill him in 1 hit. Of course, I'm like, hey, this is the easiest one. Look at all these hits I'm taking. But he'll do this attack where he runs right up to you, slams you across the room, and that's actually kind of hard to avoid. It almost seems like it's got just like the hitbox for him is just massive. But I'm also getting really lazy right now. And there we go. We're gonna go ahead and just use a sub-tank. And there's the CX-4 in action. Okay, well that's actually the first time I've done that with the shoryuken. So much for showing you guys the actual final boss. He's actually really easy. You can either use a fully charged Mega Buster shot, or you can use the wire attack. And either one does damage to him. And basically all he does is just shoot enemies at you that you can destroy. They'll drop health pellets and things like that. But what he'll also do is what you guys saw, where he shoots a laser at the floor and just moves across the room. You just have to jump over him. And that's almost the whole fight. When he goes red on his wireframe, he will do these teleport attacks where he'll try to teleport on top of you. And when he does that, you're pretty much just forced to take a lot of damage. But it's really a pretty easy boss fight, especially if you're good at just jumping over him and dashing over his head. It's nothing too terribly special. In the first form, you know, I think it's actually pretty easy when you're just constantly moving around and not, you know, tired like a sloth, as I am right now. But with fighting all three of those sub-bosses and getting all of Zero's parts and not having to fight Zero before Sigma, that's what makes me think that Sigma fight is probably the easiest to deal with. The Sigma fight in X4 has 3 phases. Well, 2 of them are pretty tough. X5 has a really tough Sigma fight, the second form in particular. And X6 can be tricky as well on his second form. Whereas in this, you've got 4 sub-tanks, and in X4, 5, and 6, you only have 2 sub-tanks. In X1, there's 3 phases, assuming you don't put Zero together in this one. If you don't put them together in this one, you do have to fight Zero, and that probably makes this the toughest, or a tougher Sigma fight. Probably tougher than he is in the X1. But the idea is to not have to fight Zero, so you can make the whole last boss fight, boss rush, much easier. So the ending is a little, you know, not a ton going on here. But yeah, Mega Man X2 is a really cool game. I'm glad I revisited it. I mean, I'm glad I went back through pretty much all of the first 6 Mega Man X games in the last couple of months. You know, starting with X4. And then moving on to X5 and X6, and then X3, and then down to X2. You know, it's a great game. Mega Man X2 is a great game. It's definitely a worthy Mega Man X game. It definitely has some things that I don't like as much as I do in other Mega Man X games. So, for instance, like the bosses I mentioned earlier, not as much variety on the, well, not as much variety on, like, the size of the bosses. Most of the bosses are close to the same size as you, so they're not really that intimidating when you get to them, but they are tough. They do have lots of different patterns. One of the things I miss from the first Mega Man X is just having some really huge and hulking boss fights, like Spark Mandrill or Flame Mammoth, bosses like that. That was kind of corrected in later Mega Man X games. Like X4 is a great example, where you've got bosses of, you know, a variety of different sizes, massive gargantuan bosses, and then small bosses. But you don't have as much of that in this game, unfortunately. But that's probably one of my only complaints with the game. I did find that finding some of the secrets was a little cryptic at first because, yeah, you get the helmet and you can scan the environments around you, but there are parts where secrets lie that you would never think to scan, just because, you know, like, on the trash compactor level, you have to saw blade through the floor. Well, you would never know to do that unless you were just absolutely right there scanning that area of the level where your helmet would tell you there's a secret there. So you really have to use the helmet in this to find secrets, which was kind of annoying. I like using my own kind of like personal ingenuity and the boss sub-weapons I get to discover the weapons or items or capsules or whatever. And there's a little bit less of that in this game. Also, you know, another good example is the plant stage. There's a heart tank right there. You know, they want you to use the helmet, but it's just right there, right in front of you, but it's hidden behind a wall, you know. In most other Mega Man X games, you can see the heart tank, and you have to think, okay, how am I going to get to that? And that's where you start thinking. You start putting two and two together, you start putting the pieces together, and just trying to solve the puzzle. But when there's no puzzle to be solved, it's not very satisfying when you do find, you know, the items. Like the capsule that's just hidden under that floor that you have to saw through. It's just, you know, that's one of the other things I didn't care for about this game. Whereas in most of the other Mega Man X games, I was able to figure out how to get all the items on my own, basically. You know, just by trial and error and, you know, using that ingenuity of mine. Alright guys, well that's pretty much going to do it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this playthrough. If you liked the video, feel free to give it a thumbs up for me or a thumbs down if you absolutely hated it. If you're brand new to my channel, consider subscribing. I've got many Let's Plays on this channel and many more to come in the future. For all you guys already subbed, thanks for your continued support, and until the next video, take it easy.